Yeah, hi everyone. So in this session, we are going to discuss about AWS core services, which we are going to use it in our using in our system design series. Okay, so there are various categories there: compute services, storage, databases, networking and content delivery, security, identity and compliance, monitoring and observability, analytics, machine learning and AI, application integrations, developer tools, management and governance, migration and transfer, and customer engagement. So these are the various categories available. So we will go and check one by one each category and what are the major services we are going to in our use it in our series. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about compute services. Under the compute category, we can see AWS, Amazon EC2, so which providing virtual, scalable virtual servers. Yeah, under the compute services, we have a Amazon EC2 instance, is providing a scalable virtual servers in the cloud. We have a AWS Lambda, which is serverless compute services. You can just focus on the functionalities. You don't need to worry about underlying infrastructure. It's a kind of serverless management. So serverless service, and then Amazon ECS, we have container services, which will help us to deploy our Docker images, Docker application, container related applications. We can deploy it, and then there is a EKS Kubernetes service, which is fully managed Kubernetes services. We don't want to worry about the master node. We just focus on the the application deployment, and then we have just need to create our configuration, Kubernetes configuration underlying Kubernetes clusters. It will be managed by AWS, and then we have AWS Fargate, which is for serverless compute in service for containers. And then we have a EC2 auto scaling group, which will help us to automatically scale up and scale down on our EC2 instances based on the load. And then the next category will be storage. Under the storage category, we can see S3, which is scalable object storage. And then we have a EBS, Elastic Block Store, which is a persistent storage for EC2 instance. And then we have a EFS, Elastic File Storage, which is a file storage for various AWS services. And then we have a Glacier, which is archival storage for long-term backups. And then we have a storage gateway, which is hybrid cloud storage solutions. So which will generally we can use it for on premises and hybrid on premises and cloud related services. If you want to integrate it both on premises server and then cloud servers, for a storage category we can use a storage gateway. Okay. And then we have a database category. We have under the database category we have RDS, relational database services, which is a managed relational database for MySQL and Postgres. And then we have a DynamoDB, which is a managed NoSQL database. And then we have a Redshift, which is data warehousing service for analytics. And then we have a Aurora, which is serverless high performance managed relational databases. And then we have a Elastic Cache, which is in memory caching service, which is underlying it has RDS and memcached services. So, and the next category will be networking and content delivery. So, it is providing AWS providing virtual private cloud, which will isolate our network services. Okay, private network within the AWS. We have a CloudFront, which is a CDN, and then we have a Direct Connect, which is a dedicated network link between our on-premises center and your AWS cloud. And then we have a Route 53, which is scalable DNS web service. And then we have a global accelerator, which will help us to improve our application globally and improve the performance as well. And then we have a ELB, Elastic Load Balancer, which will distribute the traffic across multiple instances, multiple servers to ensure high availability. So there are three different categories: application load balancer, network load balancer, and classical load balancer. Okay. And the next category will be security and identity and compliance. Okay. Under the security, we can see AWS IAM, identity and access management. It will provide secure access control to your AWS resources. We can define our policies and permissions, everything we can define that. And then we have a key management service which help us to encrypt your data, and encryption and decryption by using the keys and everything you can create and manage it. And then we have a web application firewall that will help us to protect your web application from the attacks. We have a AWS Shield, which will help us to protect from DDoS attacks. And then we have a secret manager that will help us to store the secrets, confidential credentials details in your in secure manner, and then encrypted way we can store it. Okay. And the next category we can see monitoring and observability. Here we can see we have a CloudWatch services. It will help us to monitor our AWS resources application. It will help us to collect the logs, metrics, and set alarms. And then we have a cloud trials, which will logs all the API calls and account activity, everything you can track it. And then we have a X-ray, so which will help us to trace your particular API call, and then distributed tracing for debugging and monitoring your applications. And then the next category we have Amazon Elastic Map Produce. In the under the analytics category, we can see EMR, so which is managed big data processing services. It have a Hadoop and Spark clusters. We can define it, and then we have a Kinesis, which is real-time data streaming platform, and then we have a Glow, which will help us to build ETL pipelines, which is serverless. Okay, and then we have a QuickSight service, which is for a business intelligence, like a dashboards, be dashboards we can create it. Then the next category will be machine learning and AI. So here we can see Amazon SageMaker. So it will help us to build, train, deploy the ML models. And then we have AWS recognition, which is Amazon video and image and video analysis service. And then comprehend, Amazon comprehend, it is a NLP processing service. And then AWS Lex we have, which is we can build conversational AI for chatbots. And then we have a Poly, AWS Poly, which will help us to convert the text to speech service, which is providing it. So the next category will be application integrations section. Here we can see AWS SQS queue service, which is help us to manage the message the which is help us to queuing the messages and orders and make events and everything. And then we have a SNS simple notification service, which is pops up messaging and mobile notifications. And then we have a AWS step function, which is serverless orchestration for workflows. And then we have a event bridge, which is event bus for integrating AWS services. Then next category will be developer tools category. Here we can see code commit, which is a managed Git based version control tool. Okay, code version control tool. And then we have a code build, which is for generally being used for continuous integration service. It will once your changes are committed, then it will start to build and take the artifacts, and then we can store the artifacts in any one of the services like ECR. If it's a container applications, then we can store it into the ECR. If it's a normal, if we have to zip the artifact, then we can use S3, so that everything we can do it in the code build. And then code deploy, it will help us to deploy the automations and everything. It will help us to automate the software deployments. And then we have a code pipeline, it will help us to orchestrate the entire pipeline, the code build, code deploy, and everything. It will help us to automate it. And the next category will be management and governance category. Here we can see AWS CloudFormation, which is like a native language in AWS to write our infrastructure as a code. Okay, so that will help us to keep the track of our infrastructure in the code format, version controls, everything we can do it. And then we have AWS config, which help us to track the AWS resource configurations. We have AWS system managers, which is centralized management for AWS resources. The next category will be migration and transfer, which is AWS database migration service, which is migrates databases to on-premises database to AWS. That will help us. And then it has schema conversion tool. It has that will convert the schema from one kind of database to another kind of databases. That's also possible to do it. And then we have a AWS Snowball, which is physical data transfer appliances. And then we have AWS Data Sync, which is transfer the data between on-premises to AWS. And then we have a AWS Migration Hub, which is centralized tracking of migration projects. Yeah. The next category, final category, will be customer engagements. So in under this category, we can see Amazon Connect, which is cloud-based contact center. Okay, and then we have a Amazon Pinpoint, which is targeting. We can create our campaigns for marketing purposes. We can create it. We have a emails service as well, which will help us to create and sending the email to the users. And then we have a Chim, Amazon Chim, which is help us for video conferencing and communication service. So most of these are the major services generally being used in application development. So we are also going to use these services in our in this series. Yeah, I think that's it. So we will see you in the next session. So we will take any one of the use cases. We'll discuss it further. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.